what is my child's future? What happens to my child when I die? Will they be able to enjoy what I have amassed for them? So I'd like you to touch on the whole aspect of inheritance in regards to children with special needs.
That's one of the questions we get a lot, like what's going to happen to my child? And my answer to parents is usually, it really depends on how you raise them. And it comes out, because already, as I've told you, the law default setting is against your child, what we call unsound mind. If you're of unsound mind, I hate that language, but it's what the law uses.
And they call them imbeciles?
Yeah, not even the imbeciles, at least those ones, the nasty language of imbeciles, idiots and whatnot, at least we know what they mean. But what is a person of unsound mind? You know, even me today can wake up and suddenly I'm of unsound mind. It really depends on what the judge decides. Now, how does that happen? Because it comes down to what we call Article 12 of the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It talks about equality before the law. The law should be able to see you as a person in all circumstances unless otherwise shown. Now, unsound mind negates that. It creates a whole different complexity around that. And you see, like I mentioned earlier, unsound mind is dependent on the person interpreting it. So if, for instance, legal capacity is the power to sign a contract. So if someone decides I am of unsound mind, based on whatever scale they used, and imagine I've gone for a job interview, and then the first thing I say is I have bipolar, I can't sign that contract, meaning I can't get that job. If I'm trying to get into school, like I remember, I loved playing this game with the Kenya School of Law, because I was like, I identify as a person with a psychosocial disability. So are you telling me I can't be a lawyer? You know? And then everybody gets dumbfounded, like, okay, how do we deal with you? Technically, the law says I cannot sign the role of advocates and such things. So as much as it sounds like a technical thing, but on a day-to-day basis, it can really cause a nightmare. The same thing now where parents come in. How do you raise your children? Do you raise them to understand that one day they will inherit you? Because the way the law says is, if your child is of unsound mind, they cannot inherit you. Someone has to be appointed as a guardian over them. But you as a parent can negate that by raising your child to take care of themselves, to understand that what inheritance is and succession and all of that, and write a will. I don't know how many times I keep telling special needs parents, please write a will. We're not wishing you dead, but it's because it's practical for your child. There are also other documents we call powers of attorneys. Basically, this is giving someone a power to act on your behalf. So there are some children who might never be able to understand that. But at the same time, you're wondering, so who's going to take care of my child? As you're raising your child, have it at the back of your mind that I might need someone to actually have a power of attorney over my child in case I'm not around. I'm not wishing death upon anyone, but we might not always be there to see our children to adulthood. So while you're alive and you're worried about this child with whatever condition they have, at least have a power of attorney. Identify someone you trust, who you know, if anything happens to me, my child is safe. Because remember, despite their disability, for as long as they're under 18 years, they cannot control anything of yours. So if you don't have the will, at the very least, have a power of attorney. And at the same time, at least teach your children what we call, under the CRPD, supported decision making. And supported decision making is not a complex idea. It's just something that we don't think about consciously. Supported decision making, think of it in a marriage context. When you're buying furniture, will you just wake up and go and buy furniture? No. You talk with your spouse, you discuss back and forth, but we all know at the end of the day, it's the wife who's going to buy the furniture.
Of course.
Exactly. So the same thing with supported decision making. As you're raising your child, teach them to understand that even if they might have a challenge processing information, they can still be supported to process that information, but the decision is always theirs. So as they grow up with that, it gets into their head. So at that way, even if something happens to you, no one can bully them around, no one can push them, and they might be able to also fight for themselves, The same thing, it comes into the education world. As much as we want our kids to go to school, but you'll realize there's a lot of discrimination in the education world. And our education laws are not exactly very friendly. Like, they might force you to take your child to a special needs school, even if you want your child in an inclusive school, and things like that. But even sometimes, as much as we might fight for the right of our child to be included in school, there's the other problem. You never taught your child how to fight for themselves. So they go to school, they can't cope.
And they are bullied.
And they are bullied and all of that. So yes, you did fight for their rights. You did get them into the right school. You got them education, but you didn't teach them how to stand up for themselves. So as a result, your child ends up dropping out of school. So here, it's not a legal issue. It's a societal issue. And even if you call me and tell me, I come and do something about this like a lawyer, I'll be like, no, that is a parental issue. Because in most cases, you'll find it's a child who actually comes to a parent and says, I don't want to go to school. So there are different aspects around it. As much as you do have the law of succession, law of education, and things like that, protect the rights of your child, you as a parent also need to raise your child the right way, to understand supported decision making, to understand their rights, and also build them up to fight for those rights to the best of their ability. Not all of them will be able to. And if they can't, have a backup plan. A backup plan in the form of a will or in the form of powers of attorneys to allow, at least give your child a chance in life.
Hikakama takatana kanaweza kutupana participate. Oh, okay, sawa basi. So you've mentioned that the law it would force you to take your child to a special school even when you want to take them to an all-inclusive school. So does it, when I take my special needs child to an all-inclusive school and they turn my child down, does it mean that they're acting within the law? Like, is it wrong?
Yes, what they have done by turning your child down, it's illegal. They're denying your child the right to education, as guaranteed by our constitution. You can actually sue for that. But I usually tell parents to be very careful about that. Like, what exactly were you hoping to achieve? There's some scenarios which are not practical, personally, I am against special needs schools. I'll just put it out there, but that's my personal opinion. However, there are certain situations where even you yourself, you should use your wisdom and analyze it. For instance, you go to a so-called inclusive school and you find one teacher handling about 6 different disabilities. Honestly, do you think your child will get quality education there?
No.
So even if they turn away your child, you must use your wisdom at that point. Is it worth suing them at that point? Or if they do accept your child, is the quality of education that child is going to receive there worth it? So and what I keep telling parents is you have to demand for better services. It's literally you to be your child's advocate, because these inclusive schools will never become a reality unless you, the parent, help teachers, schools, even the Ministry of Education understand what that is.